gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
It's time for the Early Bird Special. Bringing you the best stories from the world of sports and sports entertainment. Now, here are your hosts, Sparky and Burdick.
Some of you can hear me, some of you cannot at the moment. We're getting Sparky in here as we speak, but this is the Early Bird Special right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m., and we have plenty to talk about today. Sparky, good morning, my friend. Let them know what they're in for.
We are going to recap the beatdown the Oilers got last night, Oshie's retirement, the NFL holdouts. We'll talk about the Men's College World Series, how it's setting up. We'll talk about, the Raw recap as we have 24KG back on regular schedule as he will join us at 8 a.m.
At least I hope so. I forgot to text him last night, but I'm pretty sure he remembers we're back to normal schedule today.
And then we've got UCLA locking in a 4-star player and some drama out of Florida A&M. We'll get to that and much more. Remember, you can text in anytime with your questions, comments, your reaction to the Yeet Man losing the title last night, and much, much more at 661-842-2000. And plus, we are streaming on the Early Bird Special YouTube channel. Plus, you could find us all over every social media platform you could think of, even ones that haven't even been created yet. The Early Bird Special is there.
Yes, it is. And honestly, hey, we got some tickets to give away for you, too, here in the next couple days.
Yes.
As soon as they actually put them in for us.
Yeah, we got some racing tickets out at the Kevin Harvick Speedway coming up this weekend.
Absolutely.
Why wouldn't you?
Hey, I'm just saying, if you want to go check out some great racing, this is the best place to do it. And we will hook you guys up with tickets starting probably tomorrow. So I would look out for that. Maybe we'll give away some on our social medias as well if we can get that.
Big shout out to Kevin Harvick for shooting some tickets over.
Absolutely. And the entire crew. We appreciate it. We appreciated our time with Kevin a couple weeks ago, right before the Battle of the Harvicks Game 1, I'm going to call it, because there's 8 races that you're going to have to go through in order to see who the real champion is of the family. I think it's going to be the kid, though.
Just check the trophy room.
Well, I get that. I understand. But the kid you never know. There's been a couple instances like Ken Griffey Jr. where the kid outlasts the dad. So
I know. I've got a
couple instances.
I've got a 15-year-old that thinks he's bigger.
Wow, they always think
and better.
Just wait for the day he actually tries to fight you. That's going to be the fun one.
Oh, I will suplex that boy.
I mean, eventually. But at this point, let's start with hockey, though, because there's been plenty of fights during that game yesterday. This series continues to go where last year's did not. And I think that we're brewing one of the better hockey rivalries that we're going to see in the next 5 to 10 years. But unfortunately, as I predicted and kind of felt it was going to go this way yesterday, Panthers going back home, absolutely manhandling the Oilers, winning 6-1. It wasn't pretty. It was not pretty whatsoever. Skinner had a very bad game. Bobrovsky having 32 out of 33 saves is incredible.
Did he get pulled?
Probably at the end.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. And for those of you who don't do math well, that's 97%.
Yeah, I saw he allowed 5 goals and 23 shots before he got pulled.
That was Skinner. Yeah, I mean, again, really, really rough day for the Oilers. They tried to do everything they could offensively, but the relentlessness of the Rat Pack was just way too much. Brad Marchand doing his work. And honestly, the fights, the 5-on-5 at the end of the game, you could just tell the frustrations were mounting for the Oilers. There was a lot of really low hits with the stick, which started a lot of these fights. It's just, I think Wayne Gretzky said it great after the game. You would hope if you're the Oilers, this is just a one and done. This is the rough game. This is the one where you come out, got popped in the mouth, much like the Thunder did in game 1 of the NBA Finals this year. And the next game, you come out prepared and ready to go and ready to fight. But at this point, game 3 was a wash. It was ugly to watch if you're an Oiler fan. And to be honest with you, the best part about it were all the fights that happened at the end of the game, even though they were so full of frustration.
And this is Panthers head coach after the game.
A difficult game to assess because there's just so much special teams. Just the inflection points. good to get one at home early, get the crowd into the building. And that part was very important for us. But the Sam Reinhart goal is the inflection point of the game. So a 2-1, especially based on what both teams have kind of been through in the first two. There is no lead at that point, and Sam's goal was very important for us.
Honestly, it really was. Going up 3-1 really is when you kind of felt it was slipping away from them in the second period. And there were moments where the Oilers were down 5 men to 3 because there were so many people on the bench due to penalties and stuff like that. I don't know. How much of this game did you get to watch, my friend?
I was flipping back and forth. I was trying to finish John Wick after I saw it was 3-1. I was like, all right, I'll check back after about 15 minutes. And I went back, it was 5-1, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, all right, there's no comebacks. This is not the Pacers on ice.
No, well, at least not
Not
easy
that
of a
big.
game to come back.
Oh,
in,
no,
I would say.
no. But we've seen it, and game 4 will be Thursday night. So that's why I ask you. I mean, just like we talked about with the NBA Finals, I mean, is this a must win for Edmonton?
Oh, 100%. Last year when you went down 3-0 and you had the entire situation or the doubtful situations in your own minds of can we keep up with this team? Are they too good for us? And then you showed everybody that you can keep up with them. You won 3 games in a row and came right back into it. I think this is a must win for the Oilers in game 4. And it's a must. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a must play, but it's one of those games where you need somebody like Connor McDavid to turn everything around. Last year, you got the entire speech between Connor and his team where he was calling them all out, saying that they weren't giving enough effort because this is the Stanley Cup final and you have to give everything you can. I think you need that kind of an effort in game 4 out of the Oilers to completely derail the Panthers and the momentum they've just built, beating you 2 times in a row and now staying at home and their hopes are that they will beat you 3 times in a row. And at this point, I don't know if you can come back like you did last year. So it's all going to be on Connor McDavid, in my opinion, and just making this team play to a completely different level than they did in this one.
Well, I'm glad you said that because you brought up McDavid, and that was what Greg Wyshynski said game 4 is all based around.
I think he's played well in the sense that he's set up some really big goals. You know, he's made some amazing passes to his line mate Leon Draisaitl, and then Draisaitl is the one to score the goal. So it's not as if he hasn't made an imprint on the series. But when you talk about legacy, when you talk about moments, when you talk about being the MVP of this league, as McDavid has been in the past, Game 4 is where you have your moment. Game 4 is where you make the difference. Game 4 is where we come away from that game thinking they were at maybe the lowest point of their playoff run, and their captain, their star player, the guy searching for the ring, lifted them back up to put them back in the series. So you're absolutely right. Game 4 needs to be a McDavid game for them to get back in this thing.
I have to agree. And honestly, it's really just the imprint you need to give the Oilers the confidence to win this entire series. Although McDavid does a very good job at setting everybody up and really just grabbing the assists, he is a very good goal scorer and honestly hasn't really shown that in this series very much. He's been more of the distraction, the setup guy for Draisaitl or Perry to set up a solid goal for themselves. But I think in game 4, I think this needs to be a Michael or Kobe game for McDavid. I think you need to come out with the intention of I'm scoring every single goal. You know, if Wayne Gretzky was on the ice with you, what would he tell you to do? And honestly, I think this is that type of a game. This is that type of a situation for Connor McDavid to step up and say, I am the best player in the NHL. I am the best player on this ice right now. And my team is not going to be just brushed away because we're playing the Panthers. And I just genuinely believe that McDavid is the guy to actually pull that off. So I think he's right. And I think game 4 is going to be needs to be a huge game for Connor McDavid in order for the Oilers to have any kind of momentum swing and bring it back to Edmonton with an even series.
Well, I hope so, because that's what we need for the Oilers to even, stay in this series. And some other news out of the NHL, which game 4 is Thursday, right?
I believe it is. Yeah. I'll double check that right now.
Well, I saw yesterday TJ Oshie retired.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the captain that's been there for the Capitals for a long, long time, just like Alexander Ovechkin. But I feel like his retirement was kind of overshadowed because everybody was worried about Ovi retiring. Could you imagine if these two retired at the same
together?
time? I mean, you want to talk about a Washington Capitals team that would be on the way out, especially after ending the season this year so just successfully. Well, I shouldn't say ending the season this year, ending the regular season successfully, the postseason not so much. But it is a hard hit for the Capitals. I think that this will be a big piece that they're going to have to find somebody to fill. I don't think this is somebody that you can just draft and throw into the line and expect it to work. I think you're going to have to go out and find a free agent or somebody that kind of fills that role of a captain very well to help Ovi and take a lot of that pressure off of him.
I mean, it wasn't a big surprise. I know he's played for 16 seasons, and he was dealing with a major injury. And Emily Kaplan from ESPN had this to say about the retirement.
This is why it's so important for these NHL players to go to the Olympics. And we're about to get a cycle where they're going back because of so many of my friends, my buddies that just don't really care that much about hockey. They all know who TJ Oshie is because of that iconic performance he put on in the shootout in Sochi. It's really unfortunate the way his career ended. It couldn't be on his own terms. His back issues were so debilitating. He couldn't even bend over and play with his kids or tie his own shoes. He tried a bunch of different treatments in the last year and his quality life is a lot better, but he will always be known as part of that core group that brought Washington their first Stanley Cup. Always a really affable guy, really good with the media. And, he made his ESPN debut a few weeks ago, and I thought he looked and sounded dynamite on our desk, very comfortable for an ex-player. So I think this is not the last we'll see of him.
I don't think it is. I think he'll be in that board of talking heads for ESPN for quite some time. Oshie's got a long track record in the NHL of success, so who better to throw in there? And honestly, I agree with her. I think that at this point, it's sad to see that his career had to end on this level, and it came down to injuries. I think that's what we're seeing a lot of this in this generation of athletes, though, is that a lot of these athletes are not wanting that to be the future for them. Your JJ Watts, well, TJ Watt, at this point, we have no idea if he plans to retire or if he plans to re-sign with the Steelers. And when you hear these stories, of these athletes giving everything they got to the game and then not having anything to give their family and not being able to even play with their kids, that's heartbreaking. And I don't know about you, Sparky, but that's got to be a nightmare, or at least in my opinion, for athletes, especially professional athletes. So
especially when you're playing that long, you want to go out on your way.
Yeah, everybody does.
Not want to go out with a kind of an injury that forced you to retire. But we wish him the best. He was what was that, the 2014 Olympics when he made all those shootout goals. But we'll be updating everything from the Stanley Cup and news out of the NHL. But we'll take our first break. We'll come back and we'll jump into some College World Series, some updates right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. I'm going to work on my blech. So that way we can have a daily blech. But this is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. And yes, we know the NBA finals are taking way too long. We are waiting way too long for these games. However, there's other playoff stuff you can watch, especially starting this weekend because the NCAA Men's College World Series is kicking off into full swing here as we have our final 8 teams lined up, and the games start, I believe, on my birthday on Friday. You got Coastal Carolina University, Arizona, Oregon State, Louisville, UCLA, Murray State, Arkansas, and LSU all battling it out for the College World Series in 2025. I believe the games begin on June 13th. And you can find them all over the place on your ESPN providers, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN Plus, et cetera, et cetera. I believe ABC will also have a handful of games. And this is the best time to watch some college ball, man, because this after the super regionals and stuff like that, it really starts to get exciting. And I believe it's double elimination. I cannot wait to see who comes out on top this year. If I had to make an early prediction, and this is just because I have some family ties, but we're going with Arizona. We're going with the Wildcats this year. I don't care to see LSU win another championship, even though Paul Skeens is probably the greatest pitcher I've ever seen. And to be honest with you, everybody else I could live without, especially those bums over there at UCLA. But that's just me.
I'm going LSU.
Are you going LSU?
Oh, yes.
It's fun to ride with the Tigers. I mean, this is the 20th time I believe they've made the World Series final race, I should say. I know Arizona's been up there a lot of times too. I shouldn't say a handful of times. I love to see teams like Coastal Carolina, though, and Murray State sneak in. I shouldn't say sneak in because they earn their ways in here, but the play that they have shown, and honestly, watching teams like Oregon State and the Beavers absolutely dismantle their opponents in the last weekend, I think it's going to be a weekend of great baseball. I genuinely do. And there are a handful of players. I think one of them that played for Oklahoma State was from Liberty, like our own Liberty High School right here, Brock, who I believe hit a walk-off home run for them as well. So if you're a Bakersfield fan or just somebody that likes to be local, you got some ties in here as well. Or Oklahoma State, I don't believe is the only team that had somebody from Bakersfield, but it's still got some run in it. And honestly, if you like baseball, even if it's just MLB, this is where these guys start. Go see where your players are coming from. And to be honest with you, LSU has a slew of guys that are going to be on or in the show here the next decade. So I would not want to miss out on that.
And who won last year? Was it Tennessee?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe it was Tennessee, but I will double check us right now.
But Murray State shocked Duke yesterday 5-4 and reaching their first ever College World Series. I mean, you talk about a Cinderella story. Murray State pulling off that stunning upset Monday night, beating Duke is a winner take all, the regional to get into the Men's World Series. I mean, that is the Cinderella story. If you want to pick a team that isn't counted to win, we can take Arizona, we could take LSU. I'm going to always roll with LSU, but
I have a friend who listens to our show that rides with you. So I did. Right
on.
Bobby Coker, if you're listening, love you, man. But at this point, I have to ride with the Wildcats. I have family ties here, obviously. And anytime I could cheer for an alumni of my family, I have to.
It's
and
the same thing. That's
as
why
long
I
as
go with LSU. I got family out in Louisiana.
As long as it's not the bums of UCLA, I do not care at this point. And honestly, other games that happened over the weekend to get them there: Arkansas beating Tennessee, LSU knocking out West Virginia. Both games were incredible. I mean, both teams scored over 10 runs, so that's a lot of offense. But again, the biggest game to me was still Oregon over Florida State, or Oregon State over Florida State, 14-10. Like the amount of, although granted, if you're a pitching fan, you don't want to watch a game like that, but I like offensive baseball. I love it when these scores go high up in the 10s and 12s because that just shows that these batters are hitting hard and they're hitting hot, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Everybody loves home runs, and honestly, everybody loves scoring, so I don't see a problem with it. And if you have a problem with baseball, especially at the MLB level, because they don't score that much, college is your game. I promise you, college is your game. There's more likely to be a team to go up 10, 12-2 than anything. So this is the playoff run for you. So again, check it out starting this weekend, June 13th. I'm all over the place with the months.
Friday the 13th. Is that your birthday?
It is my birthday.
Nice.
You wonder why I have bad luck. I share a birthday with Jason Voorhees. That's the best part about my life, I guess. But at this point,
well, it's been a day since we talked about some law trouble, And some new news coming out. Florida A&M's athletic director Angela Suggs was arrested yesterday on fraud and theft charges for allegedly stealing over $24K using a corporate credit card while serving as CEO of the Florida Sports Foundation. Suggs allegedly made unauthorized wire transfers, cash withdrawals, and personal casino purchases during business trips, and then falsified travel vouchers to cover it by coding the charges as business meals.
That's what's wild to me is you somehow convinced your company that you've been paying thousands upon thousands of dollars at dinners for clients. That's incredible. Like, and not trying to give her any credit for this. This is dumb. I've heard and seen people do this. It is the dumbest thing in the world. If you don't think you're going to get busted, you're going to get busted, dude. Like, I don't know why people think, oh, my company gave me a credit card, I can use it for whatever I want. Never in my life have I ever heard a company say that.
No. And this comes after Suggs recently made headlines for hiring Heisman winner Charlie Ward as the men's basketball coach in April.
Tell me you don't know ball without telling me you don't know ball.
Now she faces 2 felonies, grand theft and scheme to defraud, plus 4 misdemeanor counts for false travel claims. She posted $13,500 bond yesterday to be released. So that's what's going on over in Florida. But some news out of UCLA. Micah Champ Smith, a 4-star offensive tackle. He was ranked in the top ESPN, has committed to UCLA. He's going to be the highest ranked commit under new head coach Deshaun Foster. And I mean, this is a big boy, 6'3", 320 pounds from Vero Beach, Florida, and is ranked a top 10 offensive tackle. He chose UCLA over Alabama, Illinois, Ohio State, South Carolina, and Tennessee. But
you chose UCLA over Bama?
Yep.
Over Bama.
And Ohio State.
Now, okay, granted, this is the highest rated recruit they've had ever, right?
Yeah,
ever?
In a long time.
And that's for good reason. That's because UCLA sucks at football. I'll say it out loud.
He said a key factor in his decision was his relationship with offensive line coach Andy Kwan, who joined UCLA this offseason. So he's just butting it up.
That makes sense. I mean, again, if this kid stays all 4 years at UCLA, I'd be shook.
And we're going to get into that tomorrow because you brought up the story yesterday about the NIL changes and how that's really going to change whether it's where the money's coming from, if it's coming from colleges, it's coming from donations, and how this is going to impact college sports in general.
Yep.
We'll have LaTroy Dinkins from the MoneyWise guys tomorrow to kind of break that down. He's a former college football player, so he's got a little insight on how this works. He was a Long Beach wide receiver, and look up his stats. I was actually surprised. I was like, really? Damn.
He wasn't a slouch, man.
No,
that's what I'm telling you.
He wasn't.
When we had him on the show at first, over a year ago, I was looking it up because he also got onto the practice squad, I believe, of the Chiefs for a while. So we got to talk to him about that too. But I'm glad we were able to wrap him up for this because when talking about the story yesterday, I know we gave you guys the basics of what's going on and essentially what they agreed to, which again, if you weren't with us yesterday, the NCAA and the House have come to an agreement of a settlement that was approved by a judge that now about $2.8 billion is going to go to athletes from back in 2016 on for NIL deals that they were unable to sign, along with about $20.5 million worth of money that's now going to be attributed to colleges themselves to actually pay athletes directly. So you don't have to go through these funding groups and stuff like that for NIL deals. I have so many questions though, of how the legalities of all of this and longevity and stuff. And so I'm glad that we were able to snag him because I know he's going to be able to at least help us and you guys if you have any questions about this. So feel free to text in tomorrow, 661-842-2000, and hopefully everybody can get whatever the questions they have answered.
I mean, who's better to ask than a former college football player that turned into a badass financial advisor.
Exactly.
So we'll get into that and much more, but let's get into the NBA right after this break because it looks like it's heating up with Jason Kidd and the Knicks. and some other news as a Cavs. We'll just get into that.
I'm coming to the defense of my boy Darius Garland. All y'all need to hush.
Right here on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
Welcome back.
This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky. And yes, we know the NBA finals aren't until tomorrow, but there's plenty to talk about still in the world of basketball. At least,
And the NBA is actually making it 2 days this time.
is it 2 days?
I think it's Thursday, Wednesday. I want to say Saturday, not Sunday.
Is it really? At
I
this
believe
point,
so.
You know, Adam Silver is doing his best to just stretch this out and keep attention on them. And honestly, I do believe as well, I'm not saying they made a deal with the NHL, but I do think that the two of them know that both of their finals are around the same time. Let's not stamp on each other's viewership numbers. You know, you get one day, we get the next kind of a thing. You know
Or
what I
the
mean?
NFL wouldn't. Now it's actually Wednesday and Friday.
Ah, okay. So yeah, it's perfectly based or placed around the
Good.
Stanley Cup playoff
As they
because
should.
Thursday and Saturday would be Stanley's. I think that's the best route to go about it, especially when you're competing with the NFL, who, let's be honest, anytime they're on the television, every single American turns the channel. So it's hard to compete with that.
Well, news out of the Cavs. Garland
I'm
Has-
so
is
heartbroken.
dealing with a toe injury.
Look, here's the thing. I have been very outspoken about the Cleveland Cavaliers, being a Cleveland Cavalier fan growing up and obviously following them, and I won't say covering them. I never wrote a story for them, although if they ever want to pay me for it, I'm glad to do so. But it is hard to see that arguably the second best player on your team is going to be out for quite some time. He has to have toe surgery. Now, everybody was
He did have the surgery yesterday.
yeah. Now, when everybody was giving him grief for not playing in the playoffs, saying that, oh, this is the time. And I was one of them, said, hey, I know you're hurt, but this might be the time where we need you to step up and play hurt. Like, I didn't know the severity of the injury apparently is something that's going to keep him out to 5 to 6 months, which means he's going to miss the beginning of next season as well. Everybody, though, in the fan base was crying, saying trade the kid, saying he's not tough enough. He's this, he's that. We're talking about a point guard that averages 20 points, 5 assists, and shoots 40% from three. Are you nuts? Why would you get rid of that?
We'll take him.
Absolutely. Like, are you nuts? Are you madman? No, do not move Darius Garland. And I will say this, as good as Donovan Mitchell is, this Cleveland Cavalier team is not successful or a good team unless Darius is on the floor. Every time Darius Garland is hurt or off the floor, Cleveland looks like, well,
Yeah, go ahead.
average,
Say it.
mediocre, garbage. They don't look like the team that we all know they can be. Evan Mobley, for some reason, doesn't want to step up to be that guy yet. He will eventually, I assume. But as of right now, arguably the most pivotal player on the court 95% of the time is Darius Garland, not my boy Donovan Mitchell. Donovan's going to go and get his 30 every single night. That's not going to be a problem. You need guys like Darius. You need guys like Evan. You need guys like Hunter. You need guys like Jarrett Allen to be the ones to step up, because that's how you win a championship.
If anybody's had a toe injury and played basketball, you'll know
it's hard.
It is difficult.
It is hard.
And he had mentioned that he heard it in March.
Yep.
So he played, months with this injury.
And if anybody, and I'm glad I saw somebody besides me say this, but if I ever hear the slander of Darius Garland's not tough enough to be a champion, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no clue what you're talking about. And at this point, Cleveland just needs to allow him to heal, get back to 100% and get on the court, because they need you desperately. Will this mean Cleveland will probably start out slow next year? More than likely. Will there be trade rumors around the entire league all year because that's how the media works? Absolutely. Will it happen? I sure as heck hope not. I really do, because I'm going to tell you right now, if Cleveland ever moved on from a guy like Darius Garland, wish away your championship dreams too, because it's gone. He is a pivotal piece for them to potentially win that chip next year. I will stand by that statement.
Well, we wish him a quick and speedy recovery. Hopefully he gets back before camp in October, but we'll see. I know some news out of the NBA, aside from Jason Kidd and the New York Knicks, as the Spurs are heating up. They're looking to shop that number 14 pick.
See, this is what I thought was weird, though. It's the 14 pick,
not
the
the 2.
two.
They want to keep that too.
That's what I'm saying. They want to
can.
get, well, and from what I understand is they want Dylan Harper out of Rutgers, which is also an interesting move, because you not only have De'Aaron Fox as your starting point guard, but you have the last year's rookie of the year in Castle at the number 2. So where are you planning on putting Harper? Because Harper is coming in as a bona fide starter in the NBA. I can promise you that right now. So maybe they're kind of thinking, what if this De'Aaron Fox thing doesn't work out? Or maybe they're planning on moving Castle to a 6-man and redoing what they did back in the day of having an all-star 6-man along with a star point guard and a star big man.
Well, with the big names like Giannis and Durant, I mean, who do you think they're really shopping for?
If you're shopping the 14, you're not getting Giannis.
No.
Nah, I think Milwaukee is smart enough to know, nah. Like, if we're trading you, we're getting the number. Honestly, but now that I think about it, I don't know if there's a lot of teams that will do that. Like, I don't know if
When
there's a lot of
knowing
teams.
that they got the 2?
Yeah, I think that more of them are going to be like, we'll give you Kevin or Giannis for that number 2 pick right there.
Well, I bring that up because I was going to see, if they want Giannis, would they have to give up somebody like Castle?
That's also on the board. I think you would want to keep Castle, or
Of
at
course,
least
you want to keep it, everyone.
Yeah, but I see where you're going
if
with
somebody,
that.
if I'm the Milwaukee GM, I'm like, no.
You need somebody to build around. I don't know if that's the guy you would want, though, because if you're getting rid of Giannis, one, you would have to have a plan of who's going to be the one to replace Giannis. And if you get the number 2 overall pick, I kind of get that because you could take the other kid from Rutgers who is a prototypical 3. Maybe you could stretch him to a 4 because he is that kind of a player, but he's not a Giannis style player. So I agree. I see where you're going with this. And honestly, I agree that they should try to get something out of this, at least a good building block, which the rookie of the year from last year would be a solid start. I could see your point there.
Castle and maybe somebody else in the 14th pick.
I mean, but I still just, if I'm anybody trading with the Spurs, though, I'm not trading for that 14th pick. You're going to tell me I get a mid-round first? No, not for a guy, not for a superstar. And honestly, if I'm San Antonio and I'm shopping around at all, the only 2 people that I'm shopping around for are Giannis or Kevin. So I'm not sure if you're going to be able to pull off any trade unless it's with that number 2 overall pick. But that's just my opinion.
I would take whatever. I mean, I don't think the Spurs will have the power to get Giannis. Personally, I think it'll be Durant with Victor and Castle, but I mean, it's gonna start hitting here in about a week or so when the finals are over.
Mm-hmm.
All these trades, it's gonna start getting real feisty around, especially with big players like Giannis and Durant.
Mm.
And there's other guys. I mean, we just a few days ago they were talking about what are the Knicks going to do? Are they going to trade Cat? Are they going to try to keep him? And if they do keep him, I mean, what other players are going to have to, be in a trade package? Because Giannis has also been linked. But we'll get into that because we can get into a deep conversation with all the Jason Kidd rumors right after this break on ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM.
And remember, you can text in anytime at 661-842-2000.
Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Sparky, and I for one cannot wait to see what these guys do with Ron Breaker's new intro song. I'm just saying.
Are they really going to do it?
Yeah, we're going to collab
talk
between
about it.
Limp Bizkit and WWE to give Braun Breaker his new entrance music. For those of you who don't know, and you're old school wrestling fans, the Steiner brothers, the next generation of that family, is in WWE as we speak. As Bronson Steiner, Braun Breaker, as he goes by, is one of the mainstays of the roster right now, and it's just cool to see that they're going back to getting collabs done with these really well-known artists and stuff like that. I miss those days, man, when we were able to listen to some of the best music in the world when they were coming out to these songs. I do miss CM Punk coming out to I forget the name of the song now, but Kill Switch and all of that. And although Cult's personality is kind of a little bit of a better choice for him, I guess. I don't know. I know you don't like the guy, but it is what it is.
CM Punk.
We'll get into that in our next segment with our guy KG real quick.
And some weird news while we're talking about it. I just read Dan Campbell, the coach of the Lions, is he was pushing to have a live lion on the sideline this season at Lions home games.
I mean, if
and the
Kingdor can have a
NFL.
lion, then why can't the Detroit Lions?
The NFL quickly shut that down.
Look, man.
Good try.
Dan Campbell is a if that is true, I need to hear it from his mouth first. I won't trust it until he himself says that in an interview. But if that is true, Dan Campbell has to be the most unique head coach I've ever seen in the NFL. That's just wild to me. You're wanting a whole lion, huh?
Until Satan Brown gets his arm ripped
off
on
exactly, or Jared Goff gets mauled because he's celebrating. Like, let's not chance that, okay?
I don't think the NFL wants to pay those hospital bills.
Pretty sure there's 2 musicians that had a certain run-in with a big cat a while ago that scared some people. So let's not make that a televised event.
Well, back to the NBA, as the Knicks are looking for the replacement of Tom Thibodeau. I really thought they already had somebody.
This Jason Kidd thing is really heating up.
And this is Freddie talking about it this morning.
When Brian Windhorst says there's mutual interest from Jason Kidd and the New York Knicks, he is saying there's mutual interest between the New York Knicks and the Dallas Mavericks. Because if the Mavericks wanted to shut this down, they'd have done it by now. The minute that the report came out on Friday that the Knicks are targeting Jason Kidd, he made it to the #1 list on their board. The Mavericks could have come out and said, nah, son, he's not going anywhere. We've gotten from that point to this with nothing from the Dallas Mavericks, which means that all 3 parties right now are engaging in talking to find whatever kind of compensation. Don't be surprised if Jason Kidd is a Knicks head coach within 7 to 10 days.
He's not wrong. I was thinking the same thing. The fact that the Mavericks hadn't come out and said, no, that's not happening, it means that they're seriously considering it. And honestly, with Nico Harrison as your general manager, it doesn't surprise me. I'm surprised he hasn't traded him away for, a 15th round draft pick, which does not exist. It's an interesting pick, though, because again, I stand by what I said yesterday. If you're looking to win a championship now, especially right now, I say you go with Mike Malone. There was a lot of interest in that when the Denver Nuggets moved on from Malone. Malone has obviously won a championship in the last 5 years. I think that he is the best guy really to fit your squad too, because if you look at what he had to deal with, what he had in Denver compared to what you have with the Knicks right now, a very talented big man that can also play guard-like ability, a point guard that absolutely shoots everybody out of the gym and is probably the most clutch player on the court at any point in time, unless you're playing Tyrese Halliburton.
I was waiting for that one.
And honestly, a slew of key players, including Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and a defensive, at least all defensive talent in Richardson. I think you would want a guy that can juggle all of that. Not saying that Jason Kidd can't, but there's been more proof in my eyes that Malone can handle a team like that and get you where you want to be than Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd, although, yes, made it to the finals a couple years ago with the Dallas Mavericks, they didn't win. And I'm not going to sit here and say they got there because of Jason Kidd's coaching ability. They got there because Luka is a stud.
Yeah, and I mean, I read that Kidd reportedly grew frustrated, obviously, with having to be the face of the franchise after the surprise of trade of Luka. And he played for the Knicks for a couple seasons. I mean, I've seen
He played for
coaches
Dallas
being
longer,
traded.
though, I think.
Yeah, but it's New York, baby. Maybe he wants to get out of that.
That's what I'm thinking in my head. I don't think he wants to get out of New York because it's New York. I think he wants. I'm sorry, no, I don't think he wants to get out of Dallas because it's Dallas. I think he wants to get out of Dallas because of Nico Harrison.
Yep.
And honestly, but going to a place like New York, I don't know if that's going to be any better for you, because if you come in and you're not successful off the jump, especially with the season that they just had with Tom Thibodeau as their head coach,
that's going to be for anybody, though.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
I know, but
that's why I don't understand why they would get Malone, just because they had the Malone type coach with Tibbs, and he's still getting paid.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand if they didn't have a plan. Then why did they jump on it so damn quick?
It's because it's the NBA and they're a very reactionary league, much like the NFL is at times. And I don't know. To argue why would you go with Malone when you just had Tibbs?
I understand why. I mean, he's a great veteran, coach with a great experience and resume.
Right. But I'd also argue that the one of their main reasons, at least what they've told the world, is that they want somebody that's more,
lenient.
Lenient and bench favored. And I think Malone is that kind of a guy. Like, Malone will have, sure, his Jokic's or whatever on the court for 38 minutes, maybe, if you need him to be, but you never really see his guys go over 40 minutes. And honestly, if you can mimic the style of play that Tibbs had and the defensive mindedness of that play, because that, in my opinion, is key. You don't want to move away from a defensive minded team because you're already great offensively. You need somebody that's going to refine the defense. And it fixes your major issue with Tom Thibodeau, which is the minutes problem. And if you kind of have both, I feel like it's the best of both worlds, but that's just my opinion. I'm not obviously a part of the front office of the Knicks, and as much of a dumpster fire as that organization has been in the last couple decades,
Dallas is even almost worse.
Exactly. So this is just two teams trying to figure their own thing out and get back to the championship that they've coveted for so long. But I don't know if we're going to get the right move from either of these teams.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this goes.
I mean, while Dallas may be not ready to let Kidd go, it looks like the interest is real until they come out and say, no, we're not trading Kidd. I mean, overall, I'll go to Mike Greenberg. He says, why New York is probably the better option for Kidd.
The West is loaded and the East is wide open this minute. Jason Tatum is seriously hurt. There is no great team in the East. There's no great team you can't get past. The West is absolutely loaded. And the Mavericks, is Kyrie Irving going to be healthy, and when? Is Anthony Davis going to be healthy, and ever? Is the rest of that roster outstanding? And the fan base is still disgusted that they traded away Luka Doncic. I think that the Knicks right this minute are a better situation if you're trying to win a championship quickly.
With the same
Dallas.
personnel?
They went to the Final Four.
Not with the same personnel.
East.
I mean, he's right, but I don't think the ease of the East Coast is really a pull.
Yeah.
I think I agree with him more that your time in Dallas has just become too frustrating. And honestly, the competition you have to fight against with all of this frustrating moves by your front office and essentially a rebuild without calling it a rebuild because Nico Harrison refuses to call it that. But it just, I think that is more what's pushing Jason out. And honestly, I do agree with him, though. I think New York is still a better choice for you, especially if you want to compete, because although it's not a major pull, the East is a weaker conference, it's still somewhat of a leeway. You're going to sit there and tell me that this job is easier, has just as much talent on the roster, and I'll probably get all the credit for winning a championship if we do.
I mean, you just threw it out there because with the exit of Tibbs, the fans in New York aren't going to be quiet. If they put in somebody and, Kidd comes out and they lose in the first round or don't even make the playoffs, I mean, he's going to catch, he's going to hear about it. I'll say that. And, I love Jason Kidd, and I think he would be a positive coach especially for the guards and Brunson over in New York. But I think you're right. I think if they were looking for the long term of what this coach can bring with what they already have, I think Malone is a steal, and they should be just happy that Malone's out there.
Honestly, with either of these picks, I think you get a guy that at least the roster respects. I think Jason Kidd or Mike Malone are the best two choices on the board if you're the Knicks. And honestly, I feel like you get one of those two guys. I am really starting to understand it, or starting to lean towards Jason Kidd, though, because the entire talks of Dallas not shutting this down really speaks dividends. But
I remember in 2014, he was traded to Milwaukee as a coach
Exactly.
for 2 second rounders. So, I mean, if the Knicks want to pull it up,
this man's been traded more as a coach than he was as a player.
And he was traded many times.
Yes, he was. And it's, you know what? But at least he has a job. That is the main thing. Jason Kidd, as much as he's been passed around by teams, has arguably grown into one of the better coaches in the NBA. And I think with more movement, it's just going to keep going. There's nothing to say otherwise. So we got to take a break, though, and get to the other side. We got our boy 24KG. We got a rundown of Raw last night, plus our thoughts on Money in the Bank from over the weekend. This is the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 12:30 a.m. ESPN Bakersfield. Go follow us on all social media, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Okay. Yellow.
Oh,
Okay, I can hear you now.
don't,
You know, I know he can't hear this right now, but we're playing the Gunther music, and I'm not excited that we have a second reign of Gunther
I am.
coming. I know you are, but
I
we'll get to
am.
that in a second, okay? This is the Early Bird Special. I'm Chris Burdick. That's Sparky, and 24 Key G is with us, not in studio today. He had some stuff to do at the house, so he's with us via video, which proves that we can do it, Sparky.
Yeah.
Proves
Yeah.
it.
What's
Just
up,
throwing it
Bolt?
out there.
Oh, man. How you guys doing this morning?
I am well, sir. How are you?
I am ecstatic after this awesome weekend of wrestling. We had a chance to experience together live and in person, but also viewership wise. I'm pretty sure the fans are stoked about the return of R-Truth / Ron Killings.
Yeah, I mean, and let's start with that because obviously everybody is trying to figure out, was this a work? Was this something that they had planned? I don't think it was. From everything that we've seen from tweets from him and his son, it was completely real that he did not have a contract with the WWE, and they just worked their magic like they did with CM Punk a couple years ago, and just got the paperwork signed right at the right time and brought him back. But obviously, from what we saw last night, we're not getting the original R-Truth, or I shouldn't say the original R-Truth, but the one that everybody saw when he left.
But he cut his braids off.
He did, and
That was crazy.
Going back to the TNA style of what he used to be, which is an actual serious wrestler and not a comedic side piece, which honestly I think is what needs to happen.
Most definitely. You know, when you look at the cultural significance of what it means to a black man to cut his hair, nonetheless dreadlocks and things that go with that, you either really have to be ready for a change in your life or have been paid a hell of a lot of money. So either way, it works out great for R-Truth. Like we were saying the previous week, wherever he would have ended up, theoretically, he would have been fine. But for the fact that they worked out something in the final hour and just the reaction alone based on wrestlers within the company and inside the industry, you could tell that this was not a work. So as much as I would like to think that Triple H is like he is the cerebral assassin, but just to think that he worked us all like that would be giving them too much credit based upon just internal reactions. You can just tell that people were really heartfelt about Ron Killings, R-Truth's departure and return. Hell, look at Wade Barrett's reaction from when he came. He was ecstatic. They go back about a good 15, 20 years. So, you know, any one of your buds you see go through something like that and have a redemption arc kickoff in context of real life sports or wrestling, you're going to be ecstatic for. So it was a great look. And honestly, that goes to show fans that your voices are heard.
Well, okay, but as I said on the show yesterday, and I'm going to look at you as well, my friend, because you were one of these people. There were apologies that need to be said. I said mine. I absolutely came out and admitted my wronging and saying, you know what, R-Truth, you had the following, you had the backing from the fans, and I'm glad to see him back. I'm glad to see him back as Ron Killings, though, not as R-Truth. R-Truth, I leave at the door. I don't really care for him as a wrestler that much. But Ron Killings, the TNA, the guy we're going to get, the serious wrestler, I'm all for this 110%. However, I still stand by my statement that people like yourself, because you may not have said it on the show, but I know for a dang fact we talked about this off air. Y'all need to apologize to Mr. Paul. Y'all need to apologize to Paul Levesque, because I don't care what people say. This man his job's not in danger. Y'all are overshooting this like no other and pretending like this man is a puppet for TKO. You need to calm down, is all I'm saying.
Look. Until we see Karrion Kross get his just due, then those speculations are going to continue to run rampant within this internet wrestling community. But wait. Let me stop you. Now, where we do have some type of, I'd say, an inkling of light to where Paul Levesque still has somewhat the majority of control when it comes to creative and negotiating a deal for someone like R-Truth is only yet to still be proven as this Triple H era continues. There are a lot of outside influences from the boardroom, rumors of The Rock and him clashing and beefing that are going to constantly come up whenever there's a confliction in storyline or how people are digesting the product. It's natural. We got to critique.
Look, that's fine. You can critique all you want. And I'm not saying guys like Karrion Kross don't deserve their due. I've said that on this show. However, Karrion has not had a single week where he wasn't on television. He may not
Ooh.
have been in a match, but Karrion has been on television every single week. And he has said himself, he's not mad with the company. That was a work. That entire interview was a work. That was him, building for himself and building.
But would you pay Karrion Kross R-Truth money?
No, but you wouldn't pay R-Truth big money either.
Not anymore.
And I actually,
Not
and
anymore.
I'm going to say this as well. If we're going to sit here and say that we have to give every single person a push that the internet says we have to give a push.
Oh, no. We can't do that. We can't.
Exactly. So we can't necessarily sit here and compare R-Truth's entire situation to Karrion Kross's. Although
20 years from now, maybe.
But like right now, I think Karrion is doing great work. I think Truth was doing great work, and it's just nature of the business. But for everybody to come out and call for a man's job because a mid-carder got let go, a mid-carder that I will still want to stand by my statement, none of you were cheering for that much before this last couple months. This is recency bias up the who's cow.
I'll say this to the most part.
Because when Awesome Truth was going, nobody was pushing for R-Truth to go for a main championship.
For the most part, no one really did, and I will admit that until R-Truth was visibly in this main event scene, really didn't recognize how much he had contributed to this game until he was extracted from it. That is a point. That is a real good point right there.
You take away the toy from the kid and he cries about it. That's all this is.
And who are the biggest kids in the wrestling community? The fans, of course. Now, one thing Vince McMahon always said is you don't crap on the fans. I think Triple H also understands that, but this is a different era. We are moving millions by the mega millions when it comes to per unit acquisition and records being broken in this time. This is a totally different era now. So how they handle superstars also has to be adjusted adequately. We're not going to pay him a full roster salary is what they're saying.
He's making a little over $500,000 a year.
And
his 550 is his deal.
That's not bad.
And if they still had something where they met in the middle and he's still on a reduced role as he's obviously been and to be used here and there, I think that's fair. Because honestly, if it was a work, they had us.
Oh yeah,
they had us like by these.
Yeah, to be honest,
it was a fun ride.
I think this is going to be beneficial for Ron and his career because I mean the last few years he's just been a joke. He's been the comedic relief, and I think going away from R-Truth and bringing in the Ron Killings with the shaved head, I think it's going to benefit him and his career for the future.
We're going to get a better version of Booker T. You realize that? That's essentially where
this is a low bar to be honest.
Let's not compare it to five-time.
Look, if y'all were talking about him like he was the five-time that just got cut from the company, let's talk about it then.
Yes. All right, so look, check this though. With that being said, do you see R-Truth holding a singles title at some point before he's officially retired?
Yeah, of course. The U.S. title. Or the Intercontinental title.
Yeah, I could see him taking it from Dom or something.
I can see U.S. The Intercontinental title picture is kind of upper mid-card, and that's fine.
That is my exact point right there. None of us said that he'd be in the championship.
Yeah.
No one said he'd be a main eventer, and yet everybody wanted him to stay for main event money. You can't have it both ways.
And I think people, big fans, saying that he's going to be the guy that takes the title from Cena at the end.
That's not happening.
I'm like, that is not.
That's not happening.
He got his shot.
We would all like to fantasize about it. But I agree with you, Sparky.
But that's not. Yeah, no. But I mean, again, the trajectory of the rest of his career hopefully is going upwards. I hope I'm wrong. I hope he comes out and he's a main eventer and he absolutely shocks the world.
But I think this is a good main event run for him previously. A good send-off from the main event scene to a peaceful retirement. Most wrestlers do not get to go out like how he's getting to go out in the way that he wants to.
And essentially, he's the Sonic the Hedgehog of the WWE right now.
Right now, till he come with a new haircut.
He complained enough that they said, all right, fine, we'll give you the guy back. But, okay, so can we at least sit here and attribute saying R-Truth, low mid-card, Ron Killings, the ceiling's probably mid, like we can maybe say he gets a shot at the championship again. the
I could
WWE
say
main card championship.
I could say and agree with both of those, but also throw in that Hall of Fame, down the line status, maybe
Yeah.
Legends contract, most definitely all the way 100%
Oh, I
Hall
think
of
that was
Famer.
coming regardless.
Yeah,
I think he was getting the
definitely.
Legends contract no matter what. But
Yeah,
at
he'll
this
he'll
point,
finish off with an online show or some type of
Yeah.
hosting. I mean, we
Coaching
could use him for
LFG.
Saturday's main event.
Well, that's what
'cause
they said.
Ventura's
That's
on
what
his way
everybody
out.
was shocked about, was that they didn't give him at least that opportunity, like give
Yep.
him a talk show or something of that nature first before moving on from him. But again, it's just the nature of the beast, and he still had a lot left in the tank. TNA was willing to give him a lot of money if he wasn't going to go back to the WWE.
Like that.
And I
It's-
mean, the rumor mill is mentioned that they're not done
No.
releasing some players. So or
no,
some
heck no.
athletes.
This
and
is
I would
Oh,
think
yeah.
the list that I saw, the main one that I saw was Ludwig Kaiser, which
Yep.
we haven't seen in a few weeks.
yeah. Everybody's
So
worried about Karrion Kross, but Ludwig hasn't been on television for
That
more than
worries me.
5 seconds in about 2 months, and his girlfriend is the champion. We just talked to last week. So
Come on,
clearly they don't care about that.
no,
Let's talk
no.
about it.
I mean,
And I
again,
mean, we talked about SmackDown, but Money in the Bank overall, what'd you think?
I think it was one of the better PLEs of
Mhm.
this year, and I was thoroughly entertained. I give it a 9.5. Actually, you know what? Let's give it
Really?
a 10. Let's give it a 10.
you give
Really?
it a 10?
I'd give
Wow.
I'd
It was
give
like
it a
high
10.
at 7.
I would give it
Yeah.
a high 8, maybe a low
Nah,
9.
I
I
mean,
give it a 10 because
The women's match left me
think
wanting
about
more.
this. Think about this.
Oh,
For
yeah.
fans in Los Angeles and in the Southern California region who were able to attend both live shows, a SmackDown and Money in the Bank, you're coming off
True.
a wrestling high right now.
And
So it
thank you
almost
to
still
WWE for making it Bakersfield, the
Yes.
stop
Yes.
before, and not having it be like, the Staples Center or somewhere else
And
in LA.
I've gone to
That was
several
awesome.
live events with the WWE over 40 years, but
They
Mhm.
made
I,
us look massive
I
too.
think, and
Very
I
much.
will, I'll do it again. I think the camera magic that they do
Mhm.
is just incredible. But it was the best live performance I've seen in person. I haven't gone to any PLEs, but a lot of them started with house shows,
No
and
Mercy counts. We've
but-
been to a PLE.
I
Yeah,
think-
yeah.
I think the SmackDown that we saw on Friday was one of the best I've seen in person.
Oh, 100%.
And
Oh, yeah. And the reviews
personally-
online say it as well for television viewers.
And we're getting extra love. We heard Bakersfield last night on Raw. We heard several
all
times.
weekend.
Yeah.
Only time you'll ever hear them say our name in a positive light is when we're talking
Well,
about wrestling.
what do you guys think about the opener last night to Monday Night Raw show
So,
with
I-
John Cena, CM Punk, and the threat looming of Seth Rollins and his Money in the Bank?
I'm
briefcase?
glad you brought this up.
Did something else happen?
No,
Because they just showed Seth and he held up the briefcase
Nope,
and then it
that
went
was
to
the-
break. And I was
that's
like,
the
oh,
whole point.
okay.
They
The
did-
question that I have is now in this era, usually it's when you win the briefcase, you cash in on the champion per show that you're a part of. Is that not applicable
No,
anymore?
that's not a thing anymore. Once they
Okay.
changed it, I think it was back in like 20. So when they split the briefcases up into the different colors, when they had the blue briefcase and the red briefcase, and it was set to that where it was like, okay, if you had the red one, you could only do it on Raw. If you had the blue one, you could only do it on SmackDown. When they switched it back to the gold briefcase, I believe when Otis won it, that is when they kind of said, hey, you can go anywhere, because they wanted to leave
Yeah.
the door open for creative. But with this entire thing, I'm glad you brought up the entrance though, because I had to highlight this. Because for those of you who don't follow wrestling, at least the world outside of wrestling, the kayfabe side of all of this, last night's intro was very interesting, in my opinion, because it saw a long-term rivalry between CM Punk and John Cena essentially be revived at the WWE level again for one last ride. However, CM Punk put out the idea of you get to pick the date when I get to fight you. And John Cena picked a very interesting date. Now, for those of you who are just on the level of, face level of wrestling, Night of Champions makes sense. It's the next big PLE. Obviously, you would have the two big stars going against each other, right? Here's the thing, though. There has been a long standing feud between A1 Phil Brooks and the people of Saudi Arabia, in which Phil has come out and said, Phil Brooks being CM Punk, that he refuses to work in Saudi Arabia. He will not be doing shows in Saudi Arabia because he does not appreciate how they do business, amongst other things. So what are your thoughts, my friend, KG, first on this entire thing of this is essentially, in my opinion, the WWE forcing CM Punk to work in Saudi Arabia and make up to their stockholders who he has been very vocal about not liking?
Two things to be said. Ain't it funny how money will change your attitude, honey?
Yeah,
as,
absolutely.
as my uncle used to say. And another thing, well, I believe there was a statement when he was in AEW about doing something explicit to a blood-covered expletive right there. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Two wrestlers who go and wrestle in Saudi Arabia for WWE. Now he is a part of that. I'll just harp back to this. As he stated, he is there to make money, not friends. And as long as they're making money, him specifically, I don't think he's going to have a problem with bending but not breaking morally. What we're seeing is another example of the Triple H era being able to meet people in the middle. Hey, if it's good for business, we're going to bring it over here or take it over there. My thing is, this is the absolute maturity of Phil Brooks being a real stand-up guy, locker room leader, hell, even getting paid an extravagant amount to shut up and go to work. Straight up. If John Cena's championship run, his last leg of his run, happens to run through Saudi Arabia and you're on it, are you telling me you're not going to do it? Even if they throw a couple of bonuses at you? I think that's hard for anybody in that situation to turn down. Nonetheless, when they call you out on your bluff, on your BS even, and you still do the right thing, which is what's best for business. Hey, hats off. Sensational to him.
I mean, again,
Well, he comes out and says he's all about the fans.
that's the weird part about this is that he's
that's the
leaning on
confliction.
fans. And I don't know. I just find it a little interesting that, like you said, obviously money is going to be the long and short of this. He was clearly given a dollar sign that is big enough for him to go work in Saudi Arabia. But does this not lean to the hypocrisy of all of this, though? I mean, not
most
just
definitely.
months ago, you were saying that you would never work there, no matter how much money you made. So it's like I get that money runs the world, but where do we draw the line in terms of like your entire honor as somebody who a working man, essentially? Like, you know what I mean? Like, stand on your morals. If you don't like to work there, don't work there.
That's where the line of kayfabe and reality get blended. You know, it's like he said he would never return to WWE, but yet here we are in 2025 talking about CM Punk arrest holds and chin locks.
This is why this is genuinely why, though, anybody who comes to me and says, oh, Phil Brooks is a nice guy or this or that, shenanigans. This man in front of a camera has come and said so many things that he would never do ever again. He said he would never wrestle ever again when he stepped into the UFC. He got embarrassed in the UFC and he immediately went back to wrestling in AEW. He said he would never go back to the WWE no matter how much money you paid him. First thing he does after getting dropped out of AEW is go run right back to the WWE and get a paycheck from them. And now we got the Saudi Arabia thing where you'll never work in Saudi Arabia. Those people are evil people and the way they do business is evil and this and that and the other. And now you're just going to sweep that under the rug because you get one last shot with John Cena.
And a nice, cool $1 million bonus on top of that.
It bugs me. It bugs me to my core as somebody that not only just works on radio, but just I try to be as genuine as humanly possible. And when you look at me dead in the face, say, nah, I'd never do that, man. That's way against my morals. I'd never do that. And then you turn around and immediately do it. I'm sorry. I don't care how many of your fans come to me and claim you are such a nice man. And
there are a lot of fans. There are a lot of fans that have been vocal about that same thing online, even in Busted Open Radio. I believe, what's his name? Dave, what's his last name?
LaGreca
had something similar to feel about it. We all know that this is a show, but when you put yourself on the political line outside of your profession, people would expect you to stand on something of what you just said right there, morally or vocally. Now, if he abstained from, even Sami Zayn initially had a problem with going over there, but they worked it out. Kevin Owens initially had a problem with going over there, worked it out. And many of performers that didn't feel comfortable in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You know what changed that? Money. Thank you.
True. I get that. I understand.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so they can't just talk about Phil Brooks. They got to talk about them all.
That's fair. And again, I stand by that with everybody.
Yeah, I feel you.
You're saying the same thing isn't the truth for Sami Zayn or Kevin Owens or whoever else said the same thing. If you stand on your morals, stand on your morals. Or at least come out and say, look, I know I said that back in the day, but business is business. I respect you at least for that.
Yeah.
Like,
I think he's making that clear, though. I think he's making that clear. Hey, I'm here for money. Straight up. But everything else in between, he's saying that, and then, but I'm also here for the fans, which leads a vague line of engagement, So, hey,
well,
it's like the Kendrick song. I remember you were conflicted.
While we have you here, Raw last night.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd have to say the Bronson Breakker introduction to the King of the Ring match was ecstatic. It was a good look. We got the return of Nikki Bella, which honestly to me, I get it. We have the Women's Evolution PLE coming up. I don't understand why we needed a program with her and Liv. Maybe, old school, new school.
Setting up a match probably between the two of them.
That's great, no problem. But let's get to the main event. Gunther takes back his world championship from Jey Uso, who went on a 2.5-month run. We knew it was kind of going to be a Damian Priest-like run. Maybe his was a little bit longer than Jay's, but a lot of people were hurt. They were let down. I think they put on a banger, but it left the audience somewhat disappointed because there was no Seth Rollins cash in, which I think most of us were expecting, or some type of tease too. It didn't happen. But if I was to give the match a rating out of 5 stars, since we've seen it 17 times this year.
That was a hell of a match.
It was. I'd still give it about a 4.3, man. They really went hard, especially if you look at the week leading up to this, from live events to SmackDown to Money in the Bank, maybe 18 hours off but in between travel time, if that, to go and headline Monday Night Raw with a good 19-minute to 21-minute banger. Commercial interruptions, of course.
I was surprised because I fast forward through the commercials and I saw there was 30 minutes left when they were introducing these guys. I was like, damn, this is gonna be a long match.
Yeah, they let them cook. And hey, it's 2025. Who in the hell thought we'd be over here geeking over rest holds and choke holds and sleepers? They went counter for counter on sleeper holds. I'm like, look, they had a long weekend. But the crowd was still into it. So
as a returning fan, I this is my first King of the Champions or whatever the hell it's called.
King of the Ring.
I watched the original King of the Rings, like when $1 Million Man, or not $1 Million Man, Jake the Snake and Stone Cold. But this change up or curveball of what it is. I mean, I had to rewind it and pause it to look at the fatal 4-way bracket. And I'm like, damn, these matches that they set up are going to be fire, man. And I mean, even starting with last night's the first round, I mean, these matchups are gonna be crazy. I was a little shocked that Sammy pulled out the win, but
definitely.
Hey, I'll tell you who the mystery contestant is.
I was just about to ask, Chris, who do you think the mystery
Who
contestant is for next week's tournament bracket?
Do you guys agree on it, or
it's Mr. Iguana? How much you want to bet it's Mr. Iguana?
Yeah, I thought you was joking.
The seriously thought internet sensation right now after the Worlds colliding. If you didn't, I'm telling you right now,
it's very plausible. It's very plausible.
Did not watch the Worlds Collide PLE on YouTube over the weekend.
Do yourself a favor.
Essentially, the pre-show to the Money in the Bank show, which is the WWE's new acquisition of AAA, the Lucha Libre Mexican promotion, being now part of the WWE, taking on a lot of NXT guys and stuff.
So no Joe Henry.
No Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry. Dude, I'm over Joe Hendry, to be honest with you.
I thought that's what
I think a lot of people are over Joe Hendry, but I'm going to tell you right now, the internet is falling in love with this guy, Mr. Iguana, and it is rightfully so. He is awesome. I loved what I saw out of this, and if it would be a disservice to the WWE if you do not capitalize on this.
There's so much money on the table with Mr. Iguana, but one thing I want to say is the mystery guy, in my opinion, could be a rumored returning Ilya Dragunov.
Ooh, you know what? I did not account for that. It has been quite some time since Ilya has been out with that ACL injury, and it would be around the time where he would be coming back. So you might be right on that one.
Also, another rumor, Obafemi as
Too early.
NXT champion.
It's too early. Again, I like how they've been sprinkling in the NXT kids, but right now I don't think there is anybody on the roster down there that is big enough to actually take it from him. Now, if there was an NXT guy that I could see moving up there to get it, I've heard rumors of Ricky Saints coming up, formerly Ricky Starks. But the other one that I'm going to throw out there that I was thinking about after me and you got off the phone last night, my friend, Tony D'Angelo.
Ooh, the
now
Don.
being essentially done with his entire run with the NXT. The family has been split up down there, and he's kind of in limbo. And he's honestly been I think he's the longest vet down there still that hasn't been moved up yet. And it is time. And honestly, I've been thinking about this for years. Tony D'Angelo is the real life best friend of Braun Breaker. Could you imagine if Tony D comes up and makes a partnership at the end of this run with this feud between Braun and Seth, and we get a new family between Braun Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, Paul Heyman, and a handful of other guys? I think it could be a mob-like entire movement that could change the entire industry. It really could.
So no Big E?
No, although that would be fun. I would like to see Big E. But is that your choice, Sparky?
I mean, I was thinking it was going to be Joe Henry just because they promised him some extra ring time and he's kind of died off. So I was thinking, maybe
throw a TNA guy in there.
Do we have Joe Henry fatigue?
Joe Henry fatigue is definitely a thing. And honestly, and this is the other thing I need to say to you. Again, since I said it at SmackDown before we let you go, I am no longer allowing. I know he lost the championship last night. And by the way, his reign was only 51 days. That is criminal. But yeet fatigue is not a thing. I am calling.
Definitely.
Being a part of it on Friday, it was very, very much alive, and there is no such thing as yeet fatigue going to be said on this show again.
Do you think with the loss of this title situation that it's going to kill off any of that? Because that interest is so fire.
No,
like just alone in itself, like if you experience it live, folks, if you have the chance to experience a Jey Uso intro live, it is going to change your life. Also, look for the footage of Chris.
60-year-olds, dude. Yes. I'm not even lying to you. 60 and plus people next to us doing it that had no clue who the guy was. No clue at all. But because of how it just electric and fun it was, they were getting in on it too.
A stadium of people lost their minds. Nonetheless, outside of the suite where we were doing the interview, we seen Jey Uso walk by. We'll get the footage up in a second.
We do.
It's the reaction of this fan is insanely funny. As Chris is doing an interview with them for content, and Jey Uso and his police entourage, how they lead him into the the area where he comes down in the stadium stairs, on the arena steps, was insane. Look for the footage on the YouTube. It was an awesome.
Well, my final thing I want to throw out, I mean, that women's fatal four-way yesterday was a badass match, and Roxanne pulling out that win at the end.
Well deserved.
Cooked. Absolutely cooked.
I think Roxy might win. Honestly, might win Queen of the Ring.
I like the way they keep stepping up the design and upgrading the aesthetics of the crown.
Well, I'd love to see her and Stephanie Vaquer.
It would be a great final if those two are the final. And honestly, I would not be mad with either one of them winning. However, I feel like it'll be Roxy because I'm starting to see that they are giving Roxy the same treatment they gave Tiffy, where she is getting in on all of these major PLEs early, the Elimination Chamber, the Money in the Bank, the Royal Rumble. She's getting her feet wet in all of them early because this company knows the Becky Lynches, the Baileys, the list goes on, the Charlotte Flairs. They're not going to be there for very much longer. And they've
already put in the work.
That next level, that Julia's, the Stephanies, and the Roxanne Perez's into that, the golden goddesses that they could potentially be.
Agreed. Now, these women have broken down barriers, records, and open doors, but the wrestling industry takes a toll on your body. Of course, people want to take a break, have kids, start other business ventures, and this is the perfect time when you have such a hungry generation in this rebranded women's division, which happens to be touted as one of the best WWE has ever had and comparable to every other business around them right now in the world.
I
Their
would
women's
agree with that
division
100%.
is top tier. Hell,
Mhm.
some of their matches bang harder than the guys.
Yes.
You know, and that right there, if I was behind that curtain, I'd be looking like, hey, you gonna let them show us up? We gotta follow that. When usually the roles were reversed, is I'm pretty sure the women were like, dang, we gotta follow that. Now it's like, that's all you got?
Well, that's what
Bet.
kind of what
I
Burdick was
mean,
saying with the Money in the Bank, the women's match.
Left me
yeah.
wanting
I
more,
was like,
man.
damn.
I didn't even know I wanted that match like that. That was
I still
insane.
hate that Naomi won. That's the only one on the roster. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me.
I
She doesn't have
called
a
it.
piece of me.
I
know
told
you
you
did.
she was gonna win.
I know you
I,
I
did.
think they're
I don't
gonna
know
do
why
their
y'all
final push with
surprised.
her. They're gonna do a final push with her,
her.
and she's gonna walk.
I
Oh
think.
yes, she's been quoted as saying, you know, she wants this year to kind of be one of her final years because her and I believe Jimmy Uso
Yeah.
they've been married for a while and want to start a family, and they've both been on the road for God knows how many years together. I'm pretty sure that's going to be something that she looks forward to, especially with how she left, came back, the love the company has been showing her, the just throwing her head in these high pressure like head first in these high pressure situations and feuds to help build people like Jade Cargill, or work some type of transitional situation with this Money in the Bank contract, and give her the airtime and face time to show the appreciation for what she's given to the company. That, to me, honestly, I think that was a great look because WWE at some point does patchwork fan service. They won't necessarily just give us everything we want all the time. Not to say like this R-Truth situation is the same in that aspect, but with a character like Naomi, you've got to look at the all-inclusive significance of how marketable this is. To have the first African American woman win a Money in the Bank contract opportunity, whether she's successful at cashing in or not, they know what they're doing. They know whose heartstrings they're tugging on and who that appeals to. And good job for them. I will definitely say that whoever's in those meetings saying, oh, well, this, that, and the other. Now, long time story wise, making it work, that's on Paul, which we know he can do. So think of the opportunities of where she can strike at any championship in the women's division. Just doesn't have to be the world title. It could be that US, that IC, which do your own deductions about.
I
It makes
still
more
think
sense
that's
to
a
where
waste, man.
it's
You using Money in the
actually
Bank on that is a waste.
actually to put someone over would not be a waste. Now, even if she's not successful in cashing in, whomever she goes at
Yeah,
it with, whomever is holding whatever title,
no, I get your point.
if it's put over right,
I'm more
yes.
saying, especially with if this is like Sparky had texted us and believes, because I agree with you. I genuinely agree with you, Sparky. If this does end up being the first woman to not be successful with the cash in,
That's history too.
that's history as well. But I don't see them using that on an IC or a US belt. That just doesn't make sense to me. But we have run out of time, my friend. We can get into that next time. Thank you so much for your time. We got to get out of here and pay some bills real quick. You are listening to the Early Bird Special on 101.1 FM, 1230 AM, ESPN Bakersfield.
Yeet.
Welcome back. This is the early bird special. I'm Chris Rick. That's Sparky. Hope you don't have a hangover today. It's Tuesday.
I'm just hobbling like an old man
I
today.
know.
Well, a lot of NFL teams are reporting to mandatory minicamp this morning, and a couple names that did not show up as expected: T.J. Watt, Gary Terry, and Trey Hendrickson, which opens up that conversation as the Bengals released linebacker Jermaine Bratt yesterday, which was not a big surprise. I mean, after they had drafted a couple linebackers in the draft in April, especially the second rounder Demetrius Knight Jr., who is likely his replacement. But is that, you think? I know we talked off the air, but maybe a setup where they can clear up some cap space. I know they'll have to pay 2.3 million in dead cap, but they're saving close to 6 million by cutting Pratt. I mean, does that maybe bank that money for somebody like Trey Hendrickson?
I would hope so. But I mean, again, the Bengals have shown that they don't really prioritize defensive players. So, as much as I would like to believe, as the Pat McAfee show said yesterday, that this is just the first in many moves to potentially make the money for Trey Hendrickson to sign him for a long-term deal, I just don't know. I mean, I've been on this show to say it said, Trey, calm down. Just they'll pay you when they get to it. And honestly, I've backtracked on that. I genuinely don't know if they want to pay him, which is ridiculous in my opinion. I think you should, but it's going to take more than one guy's $6 million contract to be able to pay this man. You're going to need a lot of money, and you shipped a lot of that money to your wide receivers already. So it's going to be hard to allocate other funds to him.
And surprisingly, James Cook did show up to mandatory camp after
when you're the
listing his home.
When you're 15th on the NFL's list of rush yards, and you may have led the league in touchdowns last year, but so did Jamal Williams a couple years ago.
Yeah.
As we said yesterday, I don't think your play really warrants demanding anything. So it'd probably be better off for him to just go to minicamp.
I mean, he doesn't want to lose money while he's listing his house, but I mean, is he going to fully work out, or is he just going to be one of those spectators that, hey, I'm here?
Yeah, and honestly, this could just be one of those moves where he says, you know what, like, I'm going to show up to do my piece as a professional, and then the rest I will just leave up for God to handle and all of that type of stuff, because a lot of these guys do that. But it also might be a good sign, though, for Buffalo Bills fans that maybe there is something in the works that we haven't seen yet. So maybe he does get his money. We just have no idea about it yet.
Well, speaking of money, Nick Chubb did pass his physical yesterday. He signed the 1 year, $2.5 million.
Pass his physical. This man was squatting 400 pounds the other day.
With those injuries, you never know. But
I know, but this
$2.5 million. I mean, that's a steal if you can snag somebody like Nick Chubb for $2.5 million.
Am I the only one that kind of hopes this revives his career a little bit? We're talking about one of the best running backs that we've been able to watch in the last couple decades, and injuries have done nothing but hurt him, pun intended.
I'm just glad that he's out of Cleveland.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he is as well, but
Houston's still an interesting choice, though, because you've got a very, very crowded running back room in there. And as we said yesterday, I don't think he's the number one, because Joe Mixon had quite a year for the Texans last year. And
as of right now, he's listed at 2, right above Pierce.
Yeah, which means I'm assuming, like you said yesterday, Spark, that David Pierce might be on the way out.
Yep.
So
he's probably on that chopping block.
If anybody is looking for a running back, I would expect them to make a move for Damon, at least when he hits the free agency market, because you're not going to trade for a guy like that, but you'll pick him up if he's available.
You'll swap him up. But I saw Atlanta expecting Kirk Cousins to arrive at minicamp today.
Don't expect him. Tell him go away. Tell him to leave. I don't care if he shows up to minicamp. I want the man out of Atlanta.
I mean,
I'm
he's
sorry.
guaranteed $27.5 million, so he's not walking away from that.
I'm not saying this man's a bad man. I'm really not. I'm not saying
just an expensive backup.
He's very expensive. He's very expensive and useless. I'm like, no, you're paying the man way too much money. You're just, can we please figure out a deal with somebody? I know Pittsburgh's probably off the board now that they got Aaron to sign finally, but can we get somebody to take him off our hands? Maybe the Jets. Maybe the Jets want an overpriced backup quarterback. I don't know, but just anybody but Atlanta. It bugs the ever living ish out of me. But the other story that I had to highlight too before we get to a break, our final break of the day, we shared the terrible passing of Jim Irsay a couple weeks ago. They have finally made a decision of who is going to take over as the ownership group of the team, and it's going to be his 3 daughters. They're all 3 going to evenly distribute the responsibility of running this team and just keeping it alive. There is no intention of selling the team from the family, from what I understand, and they intend to keep it going as a family-run thing. I like this. I think this is a cool move. My only concern is, as I've seen in many instances, especially in my own life, because I come from a family that had their own business that was run by 3 brothers, a lot of butting of heads will happen eventually, and that's not going to be very good. So you got to figure out a way to distribute the work between the 3 of you without stepping on each other's toes. So that'll be a very interesting move for all 3 of these women. Although I do believe they can do it. They've been around the industry and they've been around the game their entire lives. So who better to take over the reins than Jim Irsay's 3 daughters? So I think that's awesome.
When their husbands step in is when the problem
Yeah,
is.
Really. Let's keep the husbands out of the front office, though. They don't get a say.
The righteous gemstones, you'll see.
Yeah, let's not do that. I don't need your husband coming in and saying quarterback, he's bunk off my fantasy team. Like, let's not give them any power.
Well, we'll take our final break. We'll wrap up the show, preview tomorrow's as well, right here on the Early Bird Special, ESPN Bakersfield, 12:30 a.m.
101.1 FM. Welcome back. This is the Early Bird Special, final segment of the day. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, AG, for joining us and giving us a raw rundown of the week.
And before we get away from the NFL, I did catch Cam Jordan on NFL Live yesterday as he is openly wanting the Saints to pick up Winston and bring him back to New Orleans.
I'm going to recruit a veteran quarterback properly when the time is right, and that's going to probably take all the cap space we have.
Got it. I mean, who would that be? Would that be like Kirk? Like, who's out there that's interesting to you? I was thinking, like, if you could get Matt Ryan out of retirement to be your veteran quarterback presence in the locker room, would you do it?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's sacrilegious. Not saying that he's not a great man or quarterback, but would never. Kirk Cousins in that same realm, guess who he plays for now? Like, had he been in any other team, we could possibly say yes, but coming from the team that can't Atlanta, can't do it. Jameis?
Oh, well. He thrived there.
If I'm being non-biased, Jameis?
Everyone's obsessed with him in the locker room. He's probably, that would be like, that's the bell of the ball.
There's Russell over there. They got Jackson Dart. My God, Jameis. Yeah, like,
yes.
Come on down. Absolutely. Yeah, in fact, you're right. I'm going all in. Jameis as a veteran quarterback. Come on over.
Look, Cam Jordan has been the bane of my existence as a Falcons fan for quite some time. For her to even mention Matt Ryan as a possibility, are you nuts? Matt Ryan, Falcons legend, come play for the Saints? Are you stupid? I'm not even going to sugarcoat that. That's the dumbest question I've ever heard. But going to the other situation here, the other dumbest thing I've ever heard in this statement is the fact that you want Jameis Winston back. Go for it. Because apparently at this point, New Orleans has no idea what a good quarterback is. I'm going to just throw that out there. Outside of Drew Brees, you guys haven't seen one in the last 30 years, so go for it. Keep grabbing these mediocre quarterbacks. Makes it so much easier for teams like Atlanta, Tampa Bay, and Carolina to whoop you and send you at the bottom of the barrel.
Did he call you Cantlanta?
Cantlanta. I know that's what he calls. That's what he calls us all the time. Cam Jordan is a notorious Atlanta hater, obviously being a lifelong Saint, not notorious rivalry in the South. It is easily the biggest rivalry in the NFC South. It's not even close. And he has been, I think, the number one man to sack any Atlanta quarterback, including Matt Ryan. He has sacked Matt Ryan more than any other player on the planet. So, and he's great. And I'm not sitting here saying that he is any way, shape, or form a bad player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer and arguably is one of the smartest defensive linemen I've ever seen. But for you to go out of your way to beg Jameis Winston to come back to the Saints not only proves to me that y'all have zero faith in the quarterbacks you have on that field right now, including Tyler Shuck, but that means that you literally have nowhere else to go except for Jameis Winston. So go for it. I say luck. Take him. I don't care. Go for it. Go if New Orleans wants Jameis back that bad, by all means, take him. I could not give two shakes of a lamb's tail. I really could not care less. But it's just, that's ridiculous to me.
Well, I know you had some stories we want to run down real quick, so I'll run through these texts real quick.
Yeah. Which, if we don't get the stories, it's not a big deal. I'd rather hear from the text anyway.
It says, I'm thinking there'll be a wild card name that gets thrown out there for the next job. I don't think Kidd gets the position.
Well, I mean, don't leave us hanging there, Kenneth. Which one do you think? I mean, I personally, I stand by our statements today. I think Jason Kidd and Malone are the two best opportunities you have if you want a championship right now. And not to say that any of these other coaches aren't deserving of a chance. Your Sam Cassells, your Mike Browns, any of those guys. I mean, bringing back the old Villanova coach would still be really cool to see, although I don't think they're going to do that. If I was a betting man right now, my money be going down on Malone or Kidd. But let us know what you guys think.
The wrestling one says, do you think Goldberg is the one that comes back to beat Cena at the end?
No.
If not, who do you think will do it? And also, do you think Cena turns back to the nice guy before this tour ends?
Goldberg, no. Goldberg will get a shot against Gunther and then most likely be sent home because that's what they do with legends. You get one last retirement match where most likely you lose. If you ever notice that, your retirement match, you normally do not win. And yes, I do believe John Cena will have a moment of clarity, if you will, at the end of this entire run, because if you were at the show on Friday, you saw John Cena be walked out to the chants of "Thank you, Cena" by everybody in Bakersfield, and he had a moment where he stopped and kind of like acknowledged it. Not to mention, if you watched last night's Raw, you saw little bits of hints from CM Punk of the fact that that championship might be changing John's mindset and poisoning him, quote unquote. And I genuinely believe those were dropped on purpose, because at the end of all of this, I think you're going to get one last match between John and The Rock.
That's what I was thinking.
And I think The Rock is going to take that belt off of him. I genuinely believe that's where we're going, which is going to lead to Cody taking on The Rock and taking the belt off of The Rock.
I can see that too. But sadly, the last message, it says, sadly, I think Florida wins out the Stanley Cup. Edmonton looked beat last night, same as the Pacers. I think both championships are finished with Carolina and OKC taking the titles and winning out.
The beauty of a couple days off is the ability to rechange your mindset between these games. I agree with you that if you take from what we saw in game 3 of both of these series, it looks like both of these teams might be down in the dumps and beat. I don't know if that's going to be what we see in game 4, though, especially from the Oilers. I expect the Oilers to come out swinging and at least make a run at it on Thursday. It's going to be really rough, and expect a big game from Leon Draisaitl and McDavid, because those are the two leaders that have to step up for the Oilers. Pacers, jury's still out. I need to see how you guys rebound. And speaking of the Pacers, before we get out of here, I got to float this story at you, Sparky, as we get out. There is apparently a TV station in Indiana, an ABC affiliate, WPTA, that almost made the biggest flub in sports broadcasting you can when they cut away from the game 1 comeback, when the Pacers were down 110-107 and the comeback was beginning. And they went to a tease of their next broadcast, of their news broadcast at 11. I don't know about you, Sparky. I know we worked in broadcast for very long, but if there is one major sin that you do not do during a sports broadcast, that's cut away for no reason.
Especially with basketball these days.
In Indiana, of all places, where your team is in the championship.
Yes.
And you decided and they're blaming this on a automated system that it was their fault, but it's not their fault. Like, you know what I mean? Y'all flubbed up. Thank goodness you were able to bring it back right for the final shot from Tyrese Halliburton with 0.3 seconds left. Because if you didn't,
that's why you stay away from live syncs.
It's like the Heidi game, dude. You remember the Heidi game a couple years ago? Yeah. Like, you imagine just the grief WPTA would get from there on out, and you'd be done as a broadcasting group. I'm sorry. They would not be able to save you from this. Your fans wouldn't be able to. But that's all we got for you guys today. Join us back here tomorrow, 7 to 9 a.m. as usual. We'll get into more sports and everything going on. This has been the Early Bird Special. Sparky, let's get out of here.